adopted and track down your real parents. People who are adopted and track down your real parents. How did it play out? Satisfying? Disappointing? I'm an adoptive father. I'm my daughter's real parent. It was a closed adoption, so we don't have any information on her biological parents. I know it's nitpicky, but I've heard people tell me that my daughter isn't really mine, and it pisses me off. Never got in touch with my parents, but my biological siblings got in touch with me earlier this year. We had some interesting conversations, and what's interesting is that my birth parents really weren't screw-ups or drug addicts or anything like that. They just wanted their kid to grow up in a stable household, and since they were getting a divorce, and I was the product of an attempted reconciliation, they decided to adopt out. Talking with my birth siblings was interesting, but I couldn't really see them as my brothers and sisters, because I'm so tightly knit with my 2 younger sisters, one of whom is also adopted. They looked like me, sure, but I couldn't really see them as siblings. They also told me that my birth parents probably wouldn't want to interact with me, and I sort of left it there. I'm a big grizzly bear looking guy in a family full of people smaller than me, but I love them. Family isn't really about genetics anyway. I actually had a letter from my biological father from when I was 6 months old, and inside of it, he told me he loved me. After finishing reading that in the winter of 2011, I was 19 at the time, I was absolutely determined to find him. On the envelope to me was an address. I typed that address into Google, and the adoption agency that my adoption was conducted through came up. I emailed the lady who was in charge of the agency asking for information on my birth father. After a few very long months, she emailed me back with a name. She had everything on him that I could want in terms of contacting him. She had said that the reason it took so long to find him was because she had to confirm that it was in fact him, and he didn't see the message she sent him on Facebook until later. Anyway, I had his contact info, and I found him on Facebook. He and I were chatting for months on end to find out about each other, and we decided to meet up in my hometown. I was away at college at the time, and my hometown was halfway between his town and my college town. So we meet up, and it's incredible. Everything I've ever wanted to know gets answered for me: siblings, grandparents, aunts, uncles, everything. Well, his kids, my half-siblings, didn't know about my existence. Later on that summer, he messages me on Facebook, saying that he and his wife are going to be telling the kids about me very soon. Within 24 hours, I've received friend requests from all of them. About a week and a half later, I drove down to their house to meet the entire family. I spent 3 days there, meeting all of my relatives. I message with them on Facebook all of the time, and visit frequently, 3 or 4 times a year. I'll actually be going to stay with them for a week during the 4th of July, and I'm stoked. Also, I do not consider his kids as my half-siblings. They are my siblings, and I'm their sibling. I would not trade my relationship I have with them for anything. I was adopted at birth. I can't remember a specific time that I asked if I was adopted, or when my parents told me. I've just always known. My birth parents were both 18-wheeler truck drivers with not much of a permanent address, so they decided to put me up for adoption. Growing up, they would send birthday or Christmas cards every few years, and then I stopped hearing from them completely for about 5 years. One day I got a random phone call from my birth father stating that my birth mom had lung cancer and she didn't have long to live, and if I was ever going to come meet them, now would be the time. I was devastated that my birth mom was so sick, and that these were the terms in which I was going to meet them. They moved into their parents' house in Ohio when they passed. My adopted parents have always been supportive of me having a relationship with my biological parents, and understood that I wanted to go meet my family. They went with me, and we flew to Ohio a few days after the phone call. We stayed in a hotel that night, and the next day I went to meet my biological parents. I will never forget that day, pulling up to their small 1-story house with a fenced-in front yard. I got out of the car and they were there waiting for me on the front porch. It was weird, like I know these people, but have never met them. I immediately felt a deep connection with them. It's weird finally seeing the genetics you come from for the first time. My birth mom looked very sick, but she still never stopped smiling and cooked one of the best roast beefs I have ever had. I ended up meeting my whole extended family that day. I found out I have 5 half brothers and sisters, and that I'm an uncle. I never expected that, and my young nieces and nephews were so excited to meet me. I was overwhelmed with emotion and love for these people I hardly knew. I'm so glad I got that opportunity to meet them, especially my birth mom. My birth mom passed away November 27th, 2011. I unfortunately was unable to make it to the funeral, and I haven't been able to bring myself to go see her grave or contact my birth father or family. I have been to a therapist about this, and I plan on finally going up there this November, on the anniversary of her passing. It is something I need to do for closure. Thank you for reading my long rant. I've never really told this story before. I'm really hoping to reconnect with my birth family. I would really enjoy having them in my life again. My best friend was adopted at a very young age. She got information from the adoption agency about her birth mother and older brother. She looked up her brother on Facebook and arranged a meeting with him. That went extremely well. They immediately bonded. She got her birth mother's phone number and called her. They talked a few times, exchanging their life stories and hopes to meet each other soon. Birth mother lived in a different state. After a few weeks of talking over the phone, they set up a weekend to meet. The first day they met was filled with hugs, joy, and my friend got to meet her half brothers. The next few days she got to see how her birth mother really was. She ignored my friend after the first day and was incredibly rude. My friend returned home and realized her birth mother wasn't all she hoped she would be, so she stepped back with contacting her, but stayed in contact with her brothers. Her mom, adopted mother, is a wonderful woman, and she now realizes how lucky she is to have her. She was disappointed in knowing that she was put up for adoption because her birth mother is a piece of shit, but she is happy she now has a fantastic mother. Adopted at birth. I'm 26 currently and have never wanted to know anything about my biological parents. Last Father's Day, of all days, right, I received a Facebook message from a random man asking if I was adopted, was a few details of his daughter's dob. They all matched, and boy did I look like him. We talked a bit. He sent me a picture of his daughter at birth. Yep, that was me. Still not wanting to believe this random man was my biological father, I told him I would contact that adoption center with his name to see if they would give me any information. My adoption was a closed private adoption. The center called me back 3 days later to confirm that this man was my biological father. They confirmed my biological mother's name as well, all over the phone without any verification of anything. I was dumbfounded. I cried, was anger, about every emotion you could think of, informed the biological father that I was indeed his biological daughter, then was told I have 2 biological brothers, one barely a year older than me, and one 4 years younger. Biological mother also has a slew of other kids, as does he. Came to a total of 2 siblings, and 9 half siblings. I grew up an only child. The kicker was that the biological mother is, and always has been, a drug addict. She lost all her kids. Every one of my siblings is completely fucked up. They all have kids. My teenage half-sister has a 4-year-old. Most have been in jail, and have no contact with their parents. I spoke to the biological mother twice. She gave off the piece of shit vibe the second I started talking to her on Facebook, so I blocked her, and forgot that ever happened. The biological father wasn't much better emo. He was with a new woman with 3 kids, and barely speaks to his biological children from other women. I grew up in a close family. We talk all the time, and are involved in each other's lives. This guy claimed to want to get to know me and meet me, talk to me on the phone, blah, blah, blah. But it just never followed through. So I cut those ties, and haven't talked to him since either. I have talked to most of my siblings. The younger BO brother and I talk every few months. Half siblings and I talk every few days. I really wanted to get to know them and build relationships with these people that are blood related to me, but they have such terrible sad lives that we really can't keep a conversation going. So it ends up just being a few sentences exchanged every few days about how their lives are crap and what is going wrong now. I'm a positive person, in a good place in my life, and my husband is worried I'm going to get taken advantage of. So I keep my distance. All in all, it was a terribly disappointing situation and I wish it had never happened. My advice, based on experience, prepare yourself for the worst, lower your expectations. Example, consider the possibility that you are the product of rape. I was born in a time-place where abortions were illegal. I was in no way prepared for that kind of info / had never considered that possibility. So I found my parents on Facebook a few years back. I was able to find their full names because the adoption agency that sent me letters from them made a mistake and forgot to remove their last name and address for privacy reasons. I sent my birth mother a message on Facebook and ended up talking to her. My birth mother actually married my biological father and had 2 more kids after me, so it's kind of like the family I would have belonged to if I wouldn't have been adopted. I met her once and she is nice. It's a little weird honestly. I consider my mom and dad who adopted me to be my real parents and my birth mom and dad to be my biological parents. My mother was adopted. In 2009 her adoptive parents passed away and she decided to in touch with her biological family. It was a very emotional experience. Lots of tears from all involved when we met her bio parents and her 3 brothers and sisters and all their kids. It was crazy to learn where our looks, mannerisms, and even certain personality quirks came from. We are still in regular contact with everyone. They will never replace my grandparents, and we don't have a whole lot in common with them, but they are definitely family.